Thank you for coming out. Just a little housekeeping, if you bear with me for a moment. In accordance with the requirement of the Open Public Meeting Act, Chapter 231, PL 1975 announcement, I wish to announce that the New Jersey Open Public Meeting Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice and to attend meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the School Districts of the Chathams Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, place thereof posted at the Board Administrative Offices, sent to the clerks of the borough and the township, posted at the Library of the Chathams, the Chatham Courier, the Daily Record, the Star Ledger, and TAP, which is an online newspaper. Okay, so we've done our housekeeping. Mr. DeQuilla, would you mind taking attendance?
Sure. Mr. Gilfillan?
Yes.
Mr. Arnott? Ms. Ciccarelli?
Yes.
Ms. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Connors?
Yes.
Ms. Cronin? Ms. Kenny?
Yes.
Mr. Valenti?
Yes.
Ms. Weber?
Yes.
7 premises and council.
If you're able, can you please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. To move things along, I know Ms. Chase has a lengthy and very exciting report for us, so I'm going to forego any president's comments for now and throw it right over to Dr. LaSousa, our superintendent.
Thank you, Ms. Weber. You can see there's a larger audience than usual tonight. And
Is that why Rich is at his own table?
Yes. The kids' table.
I didn't say that, Rich.
So we have just two presentations this evening. The one is, like you said, the annual testing report, which we're required to deliver on an annual basis in October. And then the second is recognition of those staff members who have attained tenure as of the start of this school year. And I'm going to apologize in advance because I had a folder with all of the names and positions and so forth, but it's gone missing. So I'm looking around the room and hoping that I don't mess up, and I might, and if I do, I won't offend anyone. But I'm going to ask I'll call each person up, just ask them to stand and acknowledge them and what they do. And again, forgive me if I butcher anyone. So I'll start toward the back. It looks like I see Leslie Caulfield back there. Leslie is a French teacher at the high school. She is the person also responsible for the trip that you've been approving basically on an annual basis up to Montreal and Quebec. And she's done a great job in our world language department. So, thank you, Leslie. Scanning the room, I see some ladies in the back. I'll start with Christina Russell, who was Christina Baluzzi when we hired her. She's over at Lafayette Avenue School, and she does a great job too.
Thank you.
And thank you, Tina.
Thank you.
And I'm going to ask the next two to stand up on their own, just because I know I'm going to mess something up. So if you could just introduce yourself, tell us what you do, and we'll give you a big round of applause.
I'm Marisa Scry. I teach 5th grade ELA at Lafayette. I'm actually Tina's partner teacher, so this is pretty exciting.
I'm Ashley Stevens, and I teach 4th grade special ed at Lafayette.
Thank you very much. Moving along, I see Peter Steinmetz. He teaches business
at the high school.
At the high school, and it seems like yesterday when I can remember Marisa and Tina. Actually, it seems like yesterday that they were in my office and we were hiring them. So thank you. Next to Peter, complimenting the business department and economics department at CHS is Steve Kimmick. Steve. Candy Hull is an art teacher at the high school and was involved in the Magnificent District Art Show last year. Kathy Gomber over at Washington Avenue School, who has taught both 2nd grade and basic skills. Am I correct?
Yep.
Lisa Kressler, also utility player, SBS, Washington Avenue School, and she's also a township resident.
Yes.
We've got Kelly Medvin, a counselor at SBS right now, was at Washington Avenue School. and she's doing a great job for us. And then finally, Sally Kelly, and interestingly, I copied on an email either late last night or first thing this morning between Beth and Sally, because Sally was indicating that she couldn't find a substitute nurse over at Lafayette Avenue School. Substitute nurses are very hard for us to secure at times. So Beth was sort of working it through and saying, we're trying to figure it out. And Sally ultimately decided to leave her daughter, who was sick, and come to work until 1 o'clock when the substitute was able to arrive. Or at least that was the plan. You might have stayed the whole day. For all I know.
No, I thought there one.
So.
Thank you.
And there are many other teachers actually who attained tenure, but not all of them were able to be here. They have families, other commitments. But a special thank you to all of you. We often comment when we have new teacher orientation that we're harder to get into than Harvard, because we have typically in the hundreds of applicants per position that we hold, especially at the elementary level. And it's really a great achievement and an accomplishment to secure a position and then each year prove your mettle and be reappointed. So you guys are doing a great job, and we thank you very, very much. And you can leave now if you'd like.
Or you could sit next to me.
As Dr. Lususa said, every year the district is required to report out on the performance of our students and annual testing report. So, the first few slides are going to talk a little bit about the assessment program that the state has put together. And then I'll go over our results, and I'll just talk a little bit about our next steps. So if you look at these two graphs, it just shows the comparisons of tests taken from year to year, from 2016 to 2017, in both English language arts and mathematics. And you can see that decline remains in the high school upper grade, simply because students are able to demonstrate graduation requirement, having met the graduation requirements through other avenues. When this is posted on the web, if anybody's interested in learning more about that, you could just click on that link to the bottom right-hand corner. This is the schedule for this year's assessment program. What's basically, we're maintaining the park. A quick change to the science has been made this year. Historically, students were tested in grades 4 and 8, and at the end, of course, biology. This year it's been shifted as a result of implementation of the next generation science standards. And although we don't have much information from the state regarding what that assessment will look like, we have been told that it will be administered to students in grades 5 and 8 and at the end of 11th grade. So there's quite a bit of testing for our junior students this year. These are the graduation requirements that the state has created over the course of the past years and moving forward. Currently, our students are class of 2018 students, but if you look here, you'll see that students who are actually freshmen are required to pass and both the Algebra 1 assessment, PARCC assessment, and the English Language Arts grade 10. So right now, there's been communication from the district to the parents or guardians of any child who has not met this graduation requirement. We're looking to provide a remedial support for those children and then administer the assessment again in the spring. If students are unable to demonstrate proficiency in the spring on that assessment, then we would reconvene and look for other solutions. Ultimately, these students would have a pathway to graduation through a portfolio appeal process. This is the information we have at this time. There has been some talk in the news about changes. We have not yet been made aware of any of those, so this is what the district is following at this point in time. A little bit about our performance last year with PARCC outcomes for English Language Arts. Students are able to demonstrate proficiencies in 5 different ways, spanning from level 1 to level 5. Level 5 being exceeding expectations. So when you look at Chatham's results in comparison to the state's with regard to students meeting both exceeding expectations, you can see that we do very, very well here in comparison to other districts in English language arts. And the same thing, same information presented here for mathematics. Again, our students do very well in mathematics. When we drill down into this data further, looking more at student performance over time and from year to year, it's very consistent, so there hasn't been anything startling or shocking, but we do very, very well here. And finally, the science assessment results. As I said, this will be changing for this upcoming year. So next year we will have results for students in grade 5, grade 8, and grade 11. But again, our students do very well with this assessment. We have quite a few students who have exceeded proficiency level, especially holding strong in grade 4. Another measure that we report out on is the information related to AP testing. So if you look at these two visual images, you can see both the number of AP tests that have been taken and also the percent of students with a score of 3 or above in comparison to both the state and the global world. That's what I have to share this evening.
And you're taking questions, or?
Does anybody have a question?
No. I just have a quick question, sorry. I know, sorry, Karen. I know you don't have a crystal ball, but what's the likelihood that Park will still be with us at this time next year? I know you don't have a crystal ball, but from what's in the trade magazine, what's in all the papers, so a lot of people are panicking, oh my gosh, my kid has to pass this or not graduate, but if this isn't here anymore.
And I'm sure Dr. Lucis will elaborate on this, but I know that some of the candidates who are running right now, especially one in particular, has stated that he would not remain in a partnership with Park should he attain position. Mike, do you have anything further to say? I know you watch.
Well, I don't understand how it's possible that any of this will hold up.
Right.
So Algebra 1, Karen mentioned Algebra 1 being a graduation requirement for anyone who's in their freshman year or earlier right now. And according to the state's own statistics, 60% of the students who took Algebra 1 last year, the Algebra 1 Park test, did not pass. And 90% of students with a disability did not pass. So if the state intends on having a barrier to cross in order to graduate high school, and the barrier translates into 60% of New Jersey students not being able to graduate from high school, it's hard for me to envision how that could remain in place.
I agree. I just wanted to put it in context for the viewing audience, that come January or February, that this may change significantly. Okay. That was it. I just wanted to point it out.
I'm sorry. I know much to the chagrin of people. I can appreciate we're hoping that changes are made. I think we have to proceed under the guise that changes will not be made. What I'm concerned about would be the special ed students in terms of the barriers that they're going to have to overcome. I understand you said something we'll do a redo, and then I think at some point you said something, an alternate plan. I'd like a little more meat on the bones there, unless we're still trying to figure out what the alternate plan is. Then I'll ask this question later on. But I think some of the parents would get justifiably quite nervous if there is this threshold requirement now. And I don't know, are there different accommodations for the special ed, for the students who would fall into that category? I apologize if I should know that, I don't. And what are the plans to help those students and the families deal with and be prepared? I mean, if that's going to be the threshold, which it is right now, and I can appreciate come November 7th, the landscape may change, but we don't know that. So I think it would be ill-advised to do nothing, and I know we haven't been. So what are we doing as a plan to help our students?
And I'm okay with correcting a plan, Rich, I agree with that. I'm not okay with investing hundreds of thousands of dollars in a plan that 30 days from now may go to the wayside.
Didn't ask for what we're investing in terms of dollars. I'm just asking, do we have a plan, and what is the plan?
I think in our last curriculum meeting, if we saw this information presented to the curriculum committee, and the same questions were asked regarding our concerns about making sure that all of our students are successfully meeting graduation requirements. And the district supervisors and curriculum area, specialty areas, and the special ed department are working on a plan, identifying these students, and correct me if I'm wrong, early, so that a plan can be in place either individual to the student or kind of globally, so that we can get these kids the support they need to either sit for the test again or perhaps take an alternate portfolio approach to allow them to successfully graduate from high school.
Yes.
Did I miss?
That's exactly right. The DOE issued guidance to all school districts in August. We've been in communication with a lot of other school districts. We're following along, one of the paths that the DOE outlined for us, which is to offer additional support for students and then offer another testing opportunity. And then as we move through the years, in the ELA side, it's ELA 10, I think, that they have to pass. So obviously students haven't taken that yet. This current freshman class is the first one that will have this requirement, so we won't know for certain on the ELA side how many students need to be remediated and given additional opportunities. But on the math side, we've already been taking steps to.
So as of now, it looks like the plans we have at least thought about would be providing additional educational assistance as well as giving them a chance to retake the test?
Yes.
But at the end of the day, as it stands right now, at some point, they need to pass it. Despite the fact that some kids just aren't good test takers and under no circumstances could they pass it.
Until they exhaust that method of achieving graduation, requirement status, and then they move to the alternative proficiency method, the portfolio, which is what's in place now and what's been in place for a while.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that there was something in place, or at least theoretically we have a plan of avenues we can pursue. Thank you. Thank you. Wonderful presentation. Yours too.
Seeing no additional questions for Ms. Chase, we're going to jump, I'm sorry, Dr. D'Souza, has you concluded your report?
Yes.
Very good, thank you. Peter, would you mind business administrator's report?
Sure. Basically, I have a facility construction update. I'll start with the good news first. For the Washington playground, the contractor was on site today. Did some more prep work of the ground, and we were assured that we should start seeing equipment being placed starting tomorrow. With the sunny and dry forecast, he should be making significant progress by the end of the week. So more to come on that one. For the high school auditorium renovation, the middle school STEM addition, the Milton addition, and the new central office building, all the contracts have been awarded. All of the pre-bid meetings have been held, and each project should begin somewhere in the timetable of mid-November to mid-December, and all of them are supposed to be complete by June of 2018. So we'll keep you updated on that probably once the beginning of the year starts with more. For the roof work, the contractor is currently working on the auditorium roof at the high school, and he has punch list items to address at the other work on the high school, middle school, and Lafayette School. And for Cougar Field, the contractor is about 95% complete. The architect will do the punch list items which will need to be addressed. The complex was open and functional for Cougar Weekend, which I was told went very well. That's all I have, unless anybody has any questions.
I do not. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Nicola? No issues with parking? Great. Excellent. Very good. We're going to move over to committee reports. Personnel, Mr. Chicarelli?
We have not met since our last meeting, and we are meeting December 6th next.
December 6th? Okay.
Yes.
Very good. Curriculum, Ms. Clark?
Curriculum met just prior to this open board meeting, and we discussed that we got the report of the graduates of the class of 2017, which will be presented at the next board meeting on November 6th. November 6th?
Yes.
Yes, okay. And curriculum is meeting, again, Karen, is it on November 6th?
Yes, it's a
Yes,
public
it's the
presentation.
open board meeting,
Yes.
right, at 6:30. So that's open to the public, anyone who wishes to attend.
And what's the topic?
Our directors and I will be presenting on the programs that we have to support professional growth, both for our new teachers and our current staff, our veterans teachers.
Thank you.
I'm wrong, we're meeting November 1st. I had myself
No, we
wrong.
changed that.
Well, we bumped you.
We bumped
Oh.
you.
Policy bumped you. Sorry.
All right, then,
That was Rich.
I won't be there then.
Never mind.
Moving over to finance and facilities, Mr. Gilpin.
We also have not met. We meet next week?
November 1st.
November 1st? I will not be there.
Maybe Ann can come here.
I'll be there. I'm on that committee too, I'll be there.
We'll do a swap.
I might be there.
We'll work it out. Okay, policy and planning, Mr. Connors?
We have not met since the last meeting, and I believe our next board meeting is November 1st.
So it's policy meeting.
Policy meeting.
What does it say?
Board.
Policy.
Excellent.
Almost over.
That's why we moved the meeting to November 1st, we want to get you once more.
Okay, very good. All right, we're going to move on to the liaison reports. Mr. Connors for the borough.
Nothing to report on behalf of the borough.
Township, Ms. Clark.
Nothing to report on behalf of the township.
Back to you, Mr. Connors, for boosters.
With regard to the boosters, they have not met since our last meeting. However, they will be meeting on November 7th. Now that let me get on my soapbox, people. I know you're going to be sick. Don't worry, I'm leaving soon, so you won't hear it much longer. The boosters, again, along with the Chatham Education Foundation and Performing Arts, we can't operate without those entities. We can't. There are things that they do behind the scenes that most of us don't even know about. But they're there in terms of putting just time and money in. Perfect example is of what happened at the Chatham, the Cougar Weekend. There was a lot of things that the boosters did. They cannot continue to do those activities without the support of everyone in this room and every member of the school district, from the grammar school up to the high school. We need participation, and if you don't have time, then give money. If you don't have money, give time. You got one or the other. Trust me, you can give something, so I please urge one and all, give something, either time or money, not only to the athletic boosters, but to the performing arts and to the Chatham Education Foundation, because again, we've got to get a tremendous district in large part because of the time, energy, and generosity of those groups. Again, people, just have 3 more months of me, then you'll be done.
Not that you're counting.
Thank you, Mr. Connors, I
Thank you.
appreciate it. The Chatham Performing Arts Boosters Report I'm going to give for Mr. Arnott. So congratulations to our marching band. On October 7th, competition under the Stars at Randolph High School. The band earned first place finish in their division. In addition to that, the band took first place caption awards for Best Music, Best Guard, and the drum line took second place in their division. The band will conclude its competitive season on October 28th at Rutgers University, and the band will also be performing at the upcoming football games, the Lafayette Mini Marathon, the Washington Avenue School Halloween Parade. The local farmers market, which takes place down at our train station, the Chatham train station in the borough, was treated to a performance of some of our string orchestra students who entertained the shoppers on September 30th. That was pulled together by our Chatham Middle School Orchestra Director, Suzanne Bass, and she organized the event as a fundraiser for hurricane relief, and she took a collection of donations throughout the performances for that effort. And our final note, as Mr. Connors had mentioned, the Chatham Performing Arts Boosters, they've created a very colorful postcard this year to advertise for their fundraising drive, so if you see that, please consider giving. And if you can't, the Performing Arts Boosters meets the first Wednesday of every month at the Lafayette Avenue School Teachers Room, and their next meeting is November 1st if you're available to join and jump in on the Performing Arts. And they support the entire district K-12. So thank you very much. Ms. Kenny for Chatham Education Foundation.
Yes, the trivia night the CEF annual fundraiser sold out for both locations within 30 minutes, and I think it's going to be held at the Township Center and at Fish and Game. I think it's going to be a fun night for at both locations. They received their first round of grants, and they will be voting on them on October 26th. And similarly, their fall appeal letter will be scheduled to hit mailboxes the week of November 13th, and we'd encourage everyone in the community to think of CEF as they're doing their year-end planning, their year-end giving and tax planning.
Excellent. Thank you, Ms. Kenny. Moving over to recreation, Mr. Gilfillan.
Nothing to report.
Excellent. Thank you. The PTO district cabinet, have they met?
We did, we met 2 weeks ago, and there was nothing too eventful to report.
Okay, very good, thank you. So then I would like to make a motion to move the public and private session meetings for September 11th, 2017.
Second.
Thank you. Peter, who needs?
Just, Ms. Ciccarelli needs to abstain.
Okay, very, and we have enough then. Okay, so all those in favor of passing the September 11th meeting minutes, public and private?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Just Mr. Burke.
Noted, passes 601.
Excellent, thank you very much. We have our first opportunity for public. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry?
No, I'd like to do it now if it's okay.
I know what you're talking about.
There was a board member years ago that was on the Chatham Athletic Board Education. Her name was Laura Yates, and she passed away. And I don't know if this is, I want to say something, I don't know if this is the right time, it's not board business, but no one in this room was here when Laura Yates was on the Board of Education, I don't think. She was here when I first joined and was a tremendous advocate for the kids. I remember the first time, my first meeting, I didn't know what I was getting into, and I was sitting next to this woman that was out of her mind, yelling and screaming about something that meant a lot to her. Didn't appreciate what she was getting at because I didn't know what was going on at my first meeting. But she was a tremendous asset to the district. And she sat on the board, I believe, for 2 terms. She got relocated to Chicago, I believe, and had a young child in the district at the time.
She has twins.
Twins. And ended up relocating, and Laura Yates was a role model par excellence, and she was a tremendous individual who cared deeply for the Board of Education. I don't know if anyone out there is aware of her or aware of her demise, but I would ask that everyone at some point in their thoughts and prayers pray for Laura and her family. She was a terrific individual and did an awful lot for this district, and unfortunately many people today don't know who she is. And that's your loss, because she was that terrific of a person. Thank you.
Thank you, Rich.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. That was our first public commentary. Would anybody else like to follow that up? We don't have a microphone, right, Tom? So it's just...
That's right. Just speak up at the podium.
Okay, that'd be great. If you wouldn't mind just introducing yourself at the podium. There's another opportunity if you want to hang on. We'll get through the agenda fairly quickly, and we can circle back at the second opportunity. Seeing no rush, okay. No worries, we'll move on. If something jumps to you, don't worry, we have one more opportunity. So we're going to move on to the action items. We're going to start with personnel. It's a fairly light agenda. Ms. Ciccarelli, would you mind?
Yes, I'd like to move action items A1 through 21 on the regular agenda and A8, 12, and 21 on the addendum.
Second.
Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Grant or Dr. LaSousa on any of the personnel items? Again, if it appears that we go through them rather quickly, these are posted on Friday, so we look at them over the weekend. So if you want to get a jump on things, you can see them Friday afternoon. No additional questions? Peter, would you mind?
Sure, agenda items A1 through 21 with an addendum for A8, A12, and A21. Mr. Gilfillan?
Yes.
Ms. Ciccarelli?
Yes.
Ms. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Connors?
Yes.
Ms. Kenny?
Yes.
Mr. Valenti?
Yes.
And Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Agenda items passed 7-0.
Thank you, Peter. Moving on to finance and facilities, Mr. Gilfillan.
Just like to move action items B 1 through 6 on your regular agenda.
Second.
And 7 on the agenda.
Is there one there? Where, on the flip side?
Give you a second, but the donation from Washington.
I don't have it.
Oh, yeah, I don't either. I don't either.
Can we do an honor?
Let's give it an hour.
There's a dozen copies somewhere. but-
No, I give you one.
Are there some over there?
I'm gonna check, but I give you one.
donation, don't worry about it, we can do it next time.
No,
No, let's not skip through the donations.
let's get, somebody wants to order it.
I'll read it. D7, acceptance and donation. Oh, hello. Washington Avenue School PTO. A donation from the Board of Education from the Washington Avenue PTO in the amount of $11,373 for the following: dry erase boards and cork boards. I thought we got rid of those with disco. Even better, we got $3,000 worth of boogie boards.
Those are all, they're
Aren't
little.
they for water?
Just keep reading.
Isn't boogie boards for
Yes,
water?
and I told Ms. Dudlow she cannot create a slip and slide inside the building to use the boogie board, so only outside.
Okay,
It's a
edification.
digital tablet. They're called.
Oh, okay, they're called boogie boards. I'm getting old. An Ellison machine, and then resources for an allergy education program. So all in the total of $11,373. I guess next week we'll be approving a visit to the ocean to use the boogie boards.
I second.
Oh, not that.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for either Matt or Peter or Dr. LaSusa on the finance items? Were there any other than? No. Seeing no questions, Peter, do you mind?
Your agenda items B1 through 6 and B7 on the addendum. Mr. Gilfillan?
Yes.
Ms. Chicarelli?
Yes.
Ms. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Connors?
Yes.
Ms. Kenny?
Yes.
Mr. Valenti?
Yes.
And Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Agenda items passed 7-0.
Excellent, thank you. Moving on to curriculum, Ms. Clark?
I move curriculum items C1 through 4.
Second.
Does anybody else have any questions? Seeing none? Peter, would you mind?
Agenda items C1 through C4. Mr. Gilfillan?
Yes.
Ms. Chicarelli?
Yes.
Ms. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Connors?
Yes.
Ms. Kenny?
Yes.
Mr. Valenti?
Yes.
And Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Agenda items passed 7-0.
Excellent. Policy, Mr. Connors?
Yes, I'd like to move policy items 1 and 2.
Second.
And before we go any further, Mike, if I may, Joe, Mike, could you expound upon resolution number 2, the random canine searches? I know there's been some people aware of it, but I think it'd probably be worthwhile just to repeating and explaining what that policy will entail, please.
Sure, the Morris County Prosecutor's Office offers a service to all high school districts in the county, which is to utilize its canine search team as a deterrent for drug use in schools. And this is the third year that we are working with them, and we work with them through the Chatham Township Police Department. So we have a contact in both places. We meet before we do one of these searches. When the team comes in, no student is ever actually even sees the canine. We select on a random basis some places of the school where we then relocate all of the students to another location, and then we have the dog come through and smell some lockers and bags and so forth. And to date, we have not had a hit, but we're going to continue to do this as a deterrent for students to bring in what they shouldn't bring in into the school environment.
Thank you.
Right, so. Second? Are we voting?
Oh, yes, we are.
You moved it, right?
Oh, I thought somebody seconded.
I seconded it.
Okay.
Okay, sorry.
That's not, doesn't constitute I want something.
Does anybody have any additional questions on either the
Give you another
physical or
term on the
the
board.
canine search?
No.
Seeing none, Peter, would you mind?
Sure, agenda items D1 and D2. Mr. Gilfillan?
Yes.
Ms. Chicarelli?
Yes.
Ms. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Connors?
Yes.
Ms. Kenny? Yes. Mr. Valenti?
Yes.
And Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Agenda items passed 7-0.
Excellent. We're moving on to board business. I just wanted to bring up, Dr. LaSusa, your revised newsletter was very well received in the community. They like the format, they like its shortenedness. I had to explain that you're thinking of doing it a little more frequently. I don't want to say monthly, but more frequently than the slightly longer ones. They like the information, the canine information that you put out, the vaping. They're particularly, Kelly had mentioned something about that it was discussed. I don't know if Kelly has a minute to mention that during the public commentary. That'd be great. I appreciate that. But I don't know if the board members received any additional feedback, but so far it's been very positive.
That's good to
The
hear.
Washington Avenue, playground, putting out information, what the snafus were and what some of the constraints are. I think people just like the information.
Good to hear, I got zero feedback.
Mike, that means that's a good, that's
Because you're not hanging
that's
out
a good
in Kings
sign.
with us.
Yeah, go to ShopRite.
ShopRite. You just keep being
I'll go to
Mike.
ShopRite next
Just
time.
keep being Mike, we're all good. Keep being
Just
Mike.
keep being Mike. We're having bracelets made up. Does anybody else have any additional board business that they'd like to bring up? No? Very good. Okay, so we have our second opportunity for a public commentary. Again, if you wouldn't mind just hopping over to the podium, and if you would just introduce yourself, that would be great. Sorry, Kelly, if I put you on the spot.
All right.
Thank you.
It's okay. So I'm Kelly Luthborough. Live in the borough with children in high school and the middle school. And I'm the current coordinator of the Municipal Alliance Committee of the Chathams. And it has definitely come to our attention, and we really appreciate the attention that's been given to changing policy and being proactive around vaping and e-cigarettes. And it's very impressive. And I was at Board of Health meeting on Wednesday night last week, I think. And it was also discussed and appreciated, and really noted that the district was doing a great job and the board was doing a great job trying to at least stay on front of it and helping parents become aware of what a growing issue it is. So I want to thank you for that. Also, the Municipal Alliance will have tables at the farmers market this coming weekend, and we have a display case of vaping devices if parents want to come and to see what they look like to be a little bit more informed. And I want to say on a personal note that I really do appreciate the more frequent newsletters. I think it's a great idea. I think it's the best form of communication, the direct form of information to the parents, and I think it's a great idea.
What is your
So
feedback,
thank you.
You didn't have to go to ShopRite.
Hi, I'm Rosalinda Rubio Williams, and hoping to represent the borough on the Board of Ed after this next election. In the meantime, I did have a very interesting experience. I attended a Board of Ed candidates briefing earlier this month, and based on what I heard there, I just would like to both thank and commend the Board of Ed and the administration for working collaboratively, as just evidenced earlier with the testing questions, Mr. Connors, and the dialogue that went on as to what the district has planned or hopes to plan so that all our kids meet this prerequisite before graduation, because it's not going to be an easy hurdle. And the dialogue here is just evident to what we're doing here together as a community, an administration, and a Board of Ed to ensure that these kids succeed. Just based on what I heard that night, that is not common. It does not happen everywhere. We are very fortunate to live in a community where our Board of Ed is working along the side of our administration to make these things happen. So thank you.
What's your last name? I'm
Rubio.
running your name tag right here.
Thank you. It's hyphenated.
I'm surprised you didn't rescind your paperwork after attending that meeting.
It was actually, again, it was
take
an
my seat.
eye-opener. It really, the tension just in the room, and we were just candidates. No one held a position as of yet, but there's a lot of hostility out there, and as we witness right now, we don't have that here. We are very, very lucky. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosalinda. Are there any additional public comments?
But right here. Come on down, anytime.
No? We're good, Mr. Heath? You're good? Very good. All right, well, thank you all for coming out and make a motion to close the public. Don't run away to the executive session. Mike's office. First person there gets a chair because we don't have enough chairs.
No action will be
Are we
taken.
taking action?
No action.
No action will
Or
be
no
taken.
action will be taken.
We're dancing.
I'm not dancing.